you.
I'm gonna just send it to you, so just in case there's
I asked them for one, and I think they gave me the wrong one. No, they gave me mine instead of yours. Is that what you were looking for? Yeah, let me see what I did with it. For the hotel, they didn't charge me anything for the hotel. They only charged me for parking. No, I don't know what I did with it now.
It was good. I'm sorry I missed y'all, but everything went well. Y'all had a good day.
Yeah, I was asking them for the receipt for you, for the hotel room.
I heard it was good.
I don't care. I mean, it was only like $10. I don't care, but I don't know what I did with the receipt. I must have threw it away. Cause she.
My wife just
bank statement. I was not saving my online banking. I don't know what $35 is, but I can just
16 and a half years old.
the whole thing with little bit.
One of the little Yorkies.
Yeah, I don't know what I did with it.
Okay.
If that's what it was, then no problem. They'll just reverse it or they'll just send it back. Anyway, don't worry about it.
I don't care about that, so don't worry about it. Sorry.
How you doing?
Hello there. How are you
How
all?
are you, Virgil?
For you. Yeah.
Hey,
Hi, Chris. I thought I said they put me and Mimi at a separate table. That's a bad time. Oh, I am? Okay. I don't, oh, I don't know. Oh, I am? Okay. I'll do it.
Dr. Egan, you got all of that.
Oh yeah.
I know Liz is going to give
You
a
need
presentation
an
next
engineering degree to get it all.
Yeah, I thought that was helpful. Try.
That's good. I thought it was good though. I took a bunch of notes.
It absolutely makes sense though to have experts to take hold of all that. Yeah.
Hey, Rusty, how are you, man? I can't believe it, man. I'm so proud of her.
So she's doing well. I had so that's great. Oh wow. Really? Cool. Right. Okay, girl. Yeah, I'm sure. How is she coping over there? I mean, have y'all had a chance to? Oh yeah. That's good.
Became friends, you know, just through social media and stuff.
Grand ballroom.
Graduated.
Good. You?
That's a great experience, I'm sure.
She is from
Yeah, the temperature. Everyone in our area always benefits regardless of one by
No, you need to be out here.
Some people
You
have
need to be. What is this?
Yeah, and I really
How you doing? Good to see you. Sir, everything good?
Doing well. Doing well. Enjoying myself.
How'd you?
A little bit less bored than you noticed.
What about, was your father in there?
No, James.
James not here.
Oh, he's not here. Yeah, I went to Sam. I went there. Yeah, I went. Jim and I went.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Nice sir. Nice sir. Good guy. What's up?
Jerry's here.
He's
What a great
James
American.
legitimate. Him and Dad over there. It's a tough,
Good to see you.
Speaking of our ULS game, so
75. Around the same age.
it is. So the ULM game, like I'll go up and see my family and go and
Sure, at least
row
three.
where they'll come down and go. Otherwise, I would love to be there.
I don't know. My dad.
I appreciate the invitation.
Very tough.
All that natural light, it's good. It's not overbearing.
earlier when they said light enough, I said, no, I like it lighter. But they realized that they were windows, which I didn't realize. So if there's none of this, then it is light.
Right.
What did you do? And took your son out.
What's up?
Is that it?
I think that's it. And it's right over here.
How's everything?
They,
Good. Good to see you. Yes, sir.
wear shorts.
Yeah.
Yes, and that. And right here on the bay somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Lakeview. No. Two things over here. It's in the marina. That's what it is. In the marina.
No, I called you like that.
You asking somebody good questions down there.
But no, how are you?
You look good.
Unless you're trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
I now call to order today's meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the University of Louisiana System. Cal, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. James Carter, Dr. Jimmy Clark,
Here.
Dr. John Condos.
Here.
Mr. Edward Crawford, Ms. Lola Donahoe,
Present.
Dr. Pamela Egan. Here. Mr. Thomas Kitchen,
Here.
Ms. Rachel Laudiger.
Here.
Ms. Mimi Methvin. Here. Mr. Sean Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Al Perkins.
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre.
Here.
Mr. Virgil Robinson.
Here.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Here.
Ms. Christine Russell. Here. Mr. Joe Salter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Carol. Before proceeding, I'd like to wish a very happy birthday to both Carol and Mimi. They're both celebrating their 29th, so we'll be within code from a sprinkler standpoint. And also, I would ask that all present keep James Carter and his family in your prayers and your thoughts. He lost his father recently and can't be with us today. He's out celebrating some time with his mother, and we want to keep his family in our thoughts and prayers. As a courtesy, please turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. Be reminded that anyone wishing to make a public comment on a particular agenda item must complete a public comment card at the table of the entrance and turn it into one of our UL staff members. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. At this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Nicola and thank him again for hosting this. It's been a wonderful time here, and we look forward to our meeting today.
I thought you were going to call me special agent after last night. It really is a pleasure to welcome our board and host you for this meeting to our beautiful lakefront campus and to what I consider the greatest city on the planet. I'm going to start with just a brief video that I often use around the country with our business community to describe the University of New Orleans and help remind people about who we are, what we do.
The University of New Orleans is the only public research university in Greater New Orleans. Founded more than 60 years ago on the twin pillars of educational access and excellence, the institution remains one of the city's most important public assets. It offers rigorous academic preparation, and some of its most well-known programs guarantee an only in New Orleans education in areas such as hotel, restaurant, and tourism administration, naval architecture and marine engineering, planning and urban studies, environmental sciences, and the arts. UNO has the only civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering programs in the city, and it has produced more educational personnel in the metro area than any other institution. The university has educated students from all 64 Louisiana parishes, all 50 states, and more than 140 countries. It is the most ethnically diverse college in the state of Louisiana, according to College Factual. U.S. News and World Report ranks it among the top 25 national universities whose students graduate with the lowest levels of average debt. And UNO graduates have ranked tops in the state for highest early career salaries. The University of New Orleans drives major economic momentum in the region. The university and the adjacent UNO Research and Technology Park combine to generate nearly $1 billion in annual economic activity. A key component of that activity is the number and influence of alumni. There are more than 45,000 in Metro New Orleans alone. As a community asset, UNO forges partnerships with local employers. It is one of the key universities that helped land DXC Technology, a global IT company that's bringing 2,000 new high-paying jobs to its New Orleans Digital Transformation Center. The university's software engineering apprenticeship program with GE Digital was the company's first of its kind, giving UNO students unsurpassed professional training. And the UNO NIM Center Studios is home to the hit CBS TV series NCIS New Orleans. Interns on the show get experience they can't get anywhere else. The University of New Orleans. Can you feel our momentum?
And that momentum is continuing today, especially around my three priorities: enrollment, research, and partnerships. Just briefly, we have grown for back-to-back years now in enrollment. That's the first time that's occurred in a decade, and our undergraduate population has grown 3 years in a row, which has not happened since pre-Katrina. Over 3 years, our research portfolio, as measured by grants and contract expenditures, has gone up 74%. And our partnerships with business community, the business members of the business community, the City of New Orleans, our alumni have really grown. And just as an example, we have launched a whole series of new trainings and workshops primarily intended for our business community. We've worked with groups like DXC, GE, Entergy, Amazon, to develop certificates, develop professional development opportunities where their employees not just participate, but they're also teaching in those programs. So we're responding to the need, and based on the feedback we're getting, there's a lot more businesses interested in expanding those types of trainings and certificates. I think I'll stop there, but welcome. I hope you have an enjoyable time in New Orleans, and if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. I'm very honored to host you here today.
Thank you again, Dr. Niccolo. At this time, Mr. Salter, would you mind leading us in an invocation?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come today to this meeting, we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity that you've given us to serve. And Lord, I would ask that you would bless each person who is here today. I thank you in particular, Lord, for the presidents of our universities and the faculty and staff of each. I thank you as well, Lord, for the leadership that we have on the board and the staff that we have here that helps us get the work done each day. Lord, I ask that you would, in a very special way, remember the Carter family. We know, Lord, that regardless of age or health, that when we lose someone that we're close to, that it hurts and there's a loss there. And Lord, I realize that your love is satisfactory and helpful in trying to get us past those times. So we would ask that you would, in a very special way, be close to that family. We ask, Lord, that you would bless, again, our work, bless the students, and we ask, Lord, that you would help us to know, guide and direct us as board members to know what we need to do in order to further the work that we've been set aside to do. Thank you for your many blessings. For Christ's sake, amen.
Amen.
Thank you again, Mr. Salter. And you've been provided an advanced copy of the minutes of our last meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask if we could get a motion in a second to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Today, we are meeting as a committee of the whole, and everyone can vote on all items that are presented by each committee. As has been our practice, the chairs of the committees will conduct the business for each particular committee. Are there any questions on the format we'll be using today? May I have a motion to dispense with deliberations and meet as committee of the whole?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and thank you. Ms. Donahoe, if you could, please address the items that are under the Academic and Student Affairs Committee this time.
Thank you, Chairman. We have 14 items on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee agenda today. 13 items require action, and one is simply a report. Each member previously received executive summaries and associated information on these items. Dr. Janine Kahn, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, will provide the report. Dr. Kahn?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Ms. Donahoe, and good morning to Chair Romero, President Henderson, and members of the board, and welcome to UNO. We do have many items for your consideration this morning, 13 action items, and then there'll be a report, thank you, by Northwestern State University, so let me walk you through each one quickly. Agenda item E1 is a request from Grambling State University for approval of a letter of intent to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Cloud Computing. This is a collaborative endeavor with Amazon Web Services Educate to create an undergraduate degree that will prepare individuals for positions in this emerging area of interest within the information technology industry, for which little has been offered in terms of curricular development. Agenda item E2 and E3 pertain to McNeese State University. E2 is a request to approve a modified mission and vision statement, which now reflects that McNeese is a doctoral degree granting institution with the recent approval of the Doctor of Nursing Practice in August of 2019. E3 is a request to award an honorary doctorate of humane letters to Senator Dan Blade Morrish at fall commencement. The university would like to recognize the senator for his past years of public service, as well as his business accomplishments and contributions to the community. While board bylaw does exclude elected officials currently in office from receiving an honorary degree, Senator Morrish will complete his service to Louisiana in January 2022. He is term limited, and he will enter retirement at that time. The university will present the honorary degree at commencement in December, where he is serving as the commencement address, or will be providing the commencement address, and his honorary degree will be effective the day after his incumbent is sworn in.
Janine, just
Yes.
to clarify, 2020.
2020, yes. What did I say?
2022.
Oh, 2022. Well, yes, no. 2020, absolutely. I can't see that far into the future. Moving forward, agenda item E4 and E5 are relevant to Southeastern Louisiana University. E4 is a request for approval to offer a Master of Science in Athletic Training. Recently, the profession voted to change the entry-level requirement for licensure of athletic trainers to the master's level. This is a movement we're seeing a lot in the allied health industry. Because of this, the accrediting body and the licensure organization has mandated that athletic training at the baccalaureate be discontinued by 2022. There's your 2022, Dr. Henderson.
As a result, Southeastern would like to transition its existing Bachelor of Science in Athletic Training, which has usually an average, completer average of 15, to the graduate level. The second item from Southeastern is E5, and this is a request for approval of an undergraduate certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages. This 18 credit hour certificate program will provide a recognized credential for those who wish to teach English to speakers of other language outside of the K-12 environment. The next two items, E6 and E7, are specific to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. E6 is a request, again, to offer a Master of Science in Athletic Training, exactly the same request as Southeastern's. UL Lafayette has been very productive with their undergraduate degree in athletic training, and they would like to transition the degree to the graduate level to meet the accreditation standards. And E7 is a request to posthumously award the title of Honorary Dean of Creole Music to Mr. Amadé Ardouin in recognition of his impact he has had on Cajun, Creole, and Zydeco music, which is very special, of course, to the region serviced by the UL Lafayette campus. Agenda items E8 and E9 pertain to the University of Louisiana at Monroe. E8 is a request to offer a Bachelor of Arts in Music. This program has been designed for those students who are interested in the field of music but do not want to either teach music or pursue a performance career. The curriculum consists of a very strong music core along with an area of concentration, which will allow the individual to focus in their primary area of interest in order to blend the two areas for career purposes or for the pursuit of graduate or professional education. E9 is a request for reauthorization of ULM's Small Business Risk Management Institute. This institute was created in 2011. For your information, institutes or centers or institutes are only authorized for a maximum of 5 years, so this is why you have this reauthorization. The Institute continues to be very productive, and it provides advocacy and education to support small businesses in the area of risk management. Agenda items E10 and E12 are specific to UNO. UNO has a request from E10 for a Bachelor of Science in Urban Construction Management. UNO is proposing a construction management program focusing on urban development specific to the general New Orleans area, which is coupled with rehabilitation and restoration of existing municipal infrastructures and historic preservation. This is very different to the focus of general construction management that are offered by LSU and ULM. Such a program will meet the needs of the construction industry here in the greater New Orleans area and will complement existing degree programs in the College of Engineering, Urban Studies and Planning, and their Business Administration College. E11 is a request to offer a Master of Science in Cybersecurity and Operations, leveraging existing cybersecurity courses, infrastructure, and faculty expertise, along with their designation as a Center of Academic Excellence in Research and Cyber Operations. UNO would like to pursue this 30 credit hour advanced degree in cybersecurity and operations with an emphasis on practical, in-demand skills and advanced understanding of the modern, fast-evolving cyber threat environment. And E12 from the University of New Orleans is a request for approval to award a doctorate honoris causa to Mr. Marcus Colston. The university would like to recognize this gentleman who is a 10-year NFL veteran and a beloved player, or retired now, from the New Orleans Saints, for not only being a leader on the field, but also off of the field, as he has been identified as a leading entrepreneur here in the city of New Orleans. And the last action item is E13, which is a request to modify Board Rule Chapter 2, Students, Section 9, Admissions to Graduate Study, E, Graduating Seniors, Concurrent Baccalaureate and Master's Program Enrollment. We are seeing nationwide a lot of universities are offering accelerated programs which allow for individuals to seamlessly transition from a baccalaureate degree to a master's degree. This reduces time to degree and also is a little more nicely done so on the student's pocketbook. Less tuition is incurred as a result. Current board policy does not allow for graduate credit to be used toward an undergraduate degree. So in this request, we would like for those programs that are accelerated for students to be allowed to use a limited number of graduate coursework that is completed toward the undergraduate degree. And you're seeing this nationwide in all of the states and all of the, and it's been very successful, and our universities would like to provide this as well. It's been a long conversation with all chief academic officers and graduate deans, and this is the avenue that they would like to pursue. And lastly, the item, and if I can have it this time, President Maggio and members of Northwestern, along with their guests from the University from New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, to join me at the table so they can provide you with a little information about this exciting partnership that actually the ink dried on the paper yesterday, if I understand. So please.
Jenny, do they need to approve those consent?
They do not. The last one they don't need to approve.
I tell you, I will stand just for a second, or I will sit. And they're bringing chairs. Mr. Chairman, supervisors, thank you so much for allowing us a few minutes to talk about a historic signing yesterday that Northwestern State University and the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts entered into. Northwestern has had a long history with NOCA, with our outstanding School of Creative and Performing Arts at Northwestern, and certainly the great job that they do at NOCA. Our faculty go and teach master classes and advise their faculty and work with their faculty over years. But yesterday we signed a memorandum of understanding, the first between NOCA and an institution of higher education, where the students at NOCA now will have credits that they're taking in high school that's taught by accredited teachers, master's and doctoral level faculty, articulated directly to Northwestern for our classes in arts and our integrated fine arts and other classes. So I've got with me our academic vice president, Dr. Greg Hondel. He will also introduce our guest from NOCA, our director of the Deere School of Creative Performing Arts, Scott Burrell, on the end down there, and Dr. Richard Collins, the director of colleges and advancement at NOCA, and Ian Kansas, a senior student at NOCA. My only one regret that Mr. Carter is not here with us today. As we know, Mr. Carter was a graduate of NOCA as well. So, Dr. Hondel.
Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Maggio, and thank you to our guests from NOCA. Several years ago, we started these conversations about articulating arts discipline-specific credits for students from NOCA to seamlessly transfer to Northwestern State University. And that began in my time as director of the School of Creative and Performing Arts and my time as Dean of Arts and Sciences. And then this last year, when I moved into the role of provost, I challenged Mr. Scott Burrell, who's the director of the school now, that we needed to complete this. So almost 2 years of conversations between our two institutions. And I think the question is why does it take that long? But when you're dealing with arts disciplines and credits that talk about skill level and competencies of those students, it's very important to those faculties at both institutions that we get it right. In the 2 years that we've had the conversation, it's been probably the most collaborative and collegial conversations in which I've ever had the privilege of being involved, and a real passionate group of faculty at both institutions. So we're really excited for this opportunity and the foundation that this lays for both institutions to continue to collaborate on future projects. So we're very excited about even some of the conversation. As artists do, they're always thinking creatively, and several conversations already were happening yesterday morning when we signed the Memorandum of Understanding. If you would look at the slideshow there, just a few slides that are representative of both institutions. I hope that you will be as impressed as I was, or surprised maybe, at how similar all the pictures look when you see both different institutions. NSU is NOCA and NOCA is NSU. And so the first slide was the university, of course. This is some slides from NOCA, and back with some of our productions. And then here are some of both, and that's where you really see that both institutions value rigor and integrity in all of their arts productions. And I also want to note that students in our Fine and Graphic Arts Design Center designed our new logo, the Deere School of Creative and Performing Arts, and the CAPA abbreviation is representative of all of the different disciplines in the school. So I think yesterday we were all very impressed there were two students who talked about what this agreement means to them. And so I first of all want to credit Scott Burrell for all of the conversations that he's had since July in getting this agreement finalized, as well as Dr. Richard Collins, who's here with us today as Director of Colleges and Advancement at NOCA, and Ian Kansas, who is a senior, and I think you'll be as impressed at how articulate he is as we all were yesterday. So Ian, no pressure. What does this agreement mean for you?
Well, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I really value that you all care so much about the student's voice, because this issue, or not this issue, this agreement and this signing is so, it touches my heart, because I don't have to move away to have this amazing arts education, and that I will be able to get the credits that I have taken at NOCA are going to be able to be transferred into Northwestern, which means that there are people in the world that validate and that give me credit for what I've already done, which is something that I'm going to have to really get used to if I'm going to be an artist, you know. And I love that I am looking out into the world and looking out into college and seeing that there are a lot of people that recognize the work that I've been doing, even though it's made to make a lot of people happy, and it's made to touch the hearts of everybody, you know.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, Ian's a tough act to follow, but I wanted to thank you all on behalf of our president and CEO, Kyle Wiedberg. He's in Jacksonville at a Art School Network convention. He wanted me to be sure also to thank James Carter. I know James isn't here, but also Gary Solomon, who serves on the board of supervisors, both alumni of NOCA, and both who serve on board of directors at NOCA as well. I think this agreement is tangible confirmation of the advanced academic and artistic training that our students get at NOCA. When they undertake a very rigorous curriculum that's very professional in these 11 disciplines that we offer. And they come from 11 different parishes. As a state school, as Louisiana Arts Conservatory, we serve the entire state and hope to serve even more parishes in the future. As you may know, our 120 graduates last year were offered about $24 million in scholarships. And this will add to the value that we have already proven at some of the most prestigious conservatories and colleges around the country. So I'm really thrilled that Northwestern has invested in the arts, committed to the arts, and I think this is another testament to that. So I want to thank the board, and thank Northwestern, and most of all to thank our students, because they're the ones who go out into the world and prove that this is a world-class institution. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to congratulate all of them on this agreement and mention something that might be language that's not familiar to folks. But when we talk about the future of work, a lot of times we talk about technology and we talk about how the skills gap and addressing the skills gap is so important. But as we continue to do work to identify core competencies that are going to prepare people for an abstract world, to work in asymmetric jobs, if you will, we know that critical thinking, problem solving, effective communications, the ability to adapt are going to separate those who thrive in this new world from those who don't. I can't think of better preparation than the arts. So in addition to adding beauty to our world every day, either through performance or visual arts or the creative arts, and contributing to the quality of life in our communities through their performances, it's also, they're our future. They're our future for economic competitiveness, they're for economic growth, and I just want to applaud both of you for this work, and thank you for advancing this. And Ian, can't wait to see you on stage on the Christmas gala.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Thank you, Dr. class.
I hope someone's writing him in a letter of excuse for class this morning. Ms. Donahoe, that concludes the agenda. Again, E1 through E13 require board action. However, E14 does not, but I'm sure endorsement by the board would be appreciative of Northwestern State University.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. If no one on the board requires any further clarification, I would like to recommend the approval. Oh, okay, Jimmy.
It's not a point of clarification, it's a comment. First of all, I wanted to thank Janine for taking the time earlier to kind of walk me through everything and to clarify, and I wanted to suggest that I'm extremely impressed with what the institutions are doing. We don't really have time to comment, it's the way that we're doing things, but when you take a look at this and you see that Grambling is moving forward in an exceptional program with, the cloud computing, you take a look at the two UNO programs that are being started, Monroe's unique Bachelor of Arts, circumstance. I just want to commend people for thinking out of the box on that. I think it does a lot for the students and what we're trying to do. And in particular, accommodations to whoever, and I think you noted the academic officers, I guess, the provosts and so on, who are making the change to our own policy to allow for graduate credits to be counted for the undergraduate, significant move. So kudos to everybody on the process.
Yes, and the universities have certainly been very diligent in their work and working with their industry partners to ensure that they're providing the programs, and they're becoming very sophisticated. And they complement, and I think we're going to see a lot of this coming down the road, and they've worked very hard, and I'm very appreciative of the staff on the campuses for working with the system office to ensure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that these are programs of quality.
Any other comments by anyone from the board? Do we have any public comments? Maybe we should take those at this time. Hearing none, I would like to recommend approval of items E1 through E13. Remember, E14 is just a report, and so we will certainly follow your advice, Dr. Cobb, and make sure that these institutions, Northwestern and NOCA, are congratulated appropriately. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
And second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Is there any further business to come before this committee? Hearing none, we'll pass it right on the gavel, or lack thereof, to the next group.
Thank you, Dr. Khan, and thank you, Chair Donahoe, and all members of the committee and the board. At this time, we'll proceed to the athletic committee, which will be chaired by Mr. Sean Murphy.
Alrighty. We have 4 items on the athletic committee that are all consent agenda. Mr. Bruce Janae will provide an overview of the consent items by campus.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murphy and members of the board and President Henson. Item F1 is from McNeese, requesting approval of a contract with Justin Hill, who's their head baseball coach, effective July 1st, 2019. Item F2 comes from Northwestern, requesting approval of a revised athletic supplemental compensation policy. The athletic department is updating its policies for coaches and staff salary supplements as it relates to supplements made to base salaries and also those supplements that are competitive. The new policy will be in effect for all 14 sports for the 2019-20 year and subsequent years. Item F3 is from Southeastern. Approval of a contract with Jeremy White, who is their head women's volleyball coach, effective January 1st, 2020. And finally, item F4, University of Louisiana at Lafayette, requesting approval of a contract with Matt Deggs, who is their new head baseball coach, effective August 1st, 2019.
All of these agenda items have been reviewed by staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has a question or wishes to discuss any of these items, please let me know. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? If no one requires further clarification of the consent agenda items, may I have a motion and a second for approval of items F1 to F4?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Salter.
Second.
Second, Ms. Lola. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Do we have any other business at this time? If not, that concludes the business of the athletic committee. Do we have a motion to adjourn? And a second.
I'm committed to hold.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
gotcha.
Murphy. At this time, we're going to proceed to the Facilities Planning Committee, which will be led by Dr. Perkins.
We have 10 items on the Facility and Planning Committee. 9 items are consent and 1 is for discussion. Mr. Janae will provide an overview of the items by campus.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perkins. Item G1 is from McNeese. Approval to demolish the observatory building at the Burton Coliseum. Item G2 is from McNeese. Approval to enter into a lease cooperative endeavor agreement with the McNeese State University Foundation involving the lease of the Fuller Forum property. To carry out the wishes of Mr. Fuller, the foundation agrees to lease the land and accompanying facility to the university at no financial cost, so that McNeese may provide land and facilities to the Department of Agricultural Sciences. Item G3 is also from McNeese. Approval to name the football equipment room in the Jack Dolan Field House to the Fred Thompson Equipment Room. Mr. Fred Thomas served the McNeese football team as an equipment manager in a volunteer role for over 30 years. Item G4 from McNeese, requesting approval to name the end zone room also in the Jack Dolan Field House, the Buttress Doyle end zone room. Dr. David Buttress and Mr. Scott Dahl had led the planning and fundraising campaign to renovate and expand the athletic field house that started in 2003 and finally concluded with a grand opening in 2011. G5 is from Nichols, approval to demolish the soccer field press box building. G6 from Southeastern, approval to enter into a ground lease with the Southeastern Louisiana Foundation to construct a new welcome center on the campus. The new welcome center will be at the site of their old range hall with a project cost of approximately $1.2 million. G7, University of Louisiana Monroe is requesting approval to purchase property in a building from the ULM Foundation. The property consists of 2 acres and a 10,500 square foot building. The university has used this property for many, many years through a long-term agreement with the foundation as an extension for their visual and performing arts department. This property acquisition of $215,000 is funded with self-generated funds. G8, University of Louisiana Monroe, approval to name the new atrium for the School of Construction Management to the Don Beach Atrium. Mr. Beach was a longtime supporter of the construction management program and the majority donor for this initiative. G9 from the University of New Orleans, approval to consent the assignment of a ground lease with the Orleans Parish School Board for the Ben Franklin High School to a group titled Friends of Ben Franklin, and to amend the existing lien provision. In order to finance renovation for the existing buildings and construct a new STEM classroom, the school board would like to assign their portion of that lease to the Friends of Ben Franklin, which is a nonprofit organization, but this does require university consent. Furthermore, in order for the Friends of Ben Franklin to partially fund the construction with debt, and it will be no impact on UNO, we have to amend the lien provision that is in the lease. And finally, item G10 is from Louisiana Tech, approval to execute a ground lease to Tech Point LLC for the purpose of constructing and managing a 60,000 square foot facility to be known as Tech Point 2. Estimated construction cost is approximately $15 million. The financing will be undertaken entirely by and through Tech Point 2 LLC, with the university assuming no financial obligation related to the construction of the facility. And at this time, I'd like Dr. Geis and some of his staff to come up and give more details about this exciting project at Louisiana Tech. Dr. Geis.
morning, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Chair Perkins and members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to share some of this news with you. About a decade ago, Louisiana Tech announced the establishment of an enterprise campus in the kind of deteriorating part of our community between Louisiana Tech and downtown Ruston. And our goal there was to begin to establish the kind of facilities that supported the advancement of research partnerships and workforce development partnerships with some of the corporations, begin to attract companies into North Louisiana that would offer jobs and internships for our students and graduates. Over a period of time, we acquired land. We received federal grants and support from the city to develop streets and a lot of the infrastructure that's needed. We built Tech Point, a building that is 40,000 square feet, and over that period of time and now is fully occupied with companies. In fact, many of those companies, it's about a dozen companies there now that are growing and expanding, and we're having to move some of them out into other nooks and crannies on our campus just to support their growth. So we were very pleased yesterday when Governor Edwards came to our campus and announced the commitment of the state for this $15 million facility. Louisiana Economic Development and the state will fund half of the facility, and the other half will be funded through a nonprofit organization associated with our research foundation called Tech Point 2 LLC. We're excited to begin that operation. I do want to reemphasize what was said, is that this has no financial risk to the institution. It is the obligation of the LLC to actually develop this. What we're asking the board to execute now is a land lease agreement so that the LLC can begin to go through the design construction process to get the new facility in place. And we'll be glad to address any questions.
I think we're good. Dr. Geis, thank you for your presentation.
It's exciting stuff.
Very exciting. And before I move on to the agenda, I just want to commend all 9 of the universities with the projects that are going on. And Mr. Janae in helping facilitate it, Dr. Henderson and staff. I know 3.5 years ago, this is not the kind of energy we had when it was looking at buildings. We were talking about the terrible conditions of our buildings. And it's exciting to hear about new things happening in private-public partnerships and innovative ways to do it. Earlier this year, or a couple months ago, we had a chance to do the groundbreaking at both Grambling and La Tech, which was very exciting. So to see all these projects and stuff going on in Nichols and ULM. Nichols, I know, has a major, I think their student union or something like that is being redone, and murals going up. And McNeese, to know the condition that that university was in, not too short of a time to see the projects going on. Is definitely want to commend all of the presidents, all the facility planning people on those campuses, and Dr. Janae for those things that are going on. We know that's a lot of work, but we appreciate it. And I think the students, more importantly, will appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All of these agenda items have been reviewed by the staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has any question or wishes to discuss any of these items, please let me know. Are there any questions, comments from the board? Any comments from the public? If no one requires further clarification of the agenda items, may I have a motion and a second for approval?
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Have a second on items G1 through G10. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Do we have any other business at this time? If not, that concludes the business of the Facility and Planners Committee. We'll move on to the next committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Finance.
Thank you, Chair Perkins. And at this time, Mr. Kitchen will proceed with items that will be presented to the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. We have 8 consent items on the finance agenda today. If there's any, during the discussion, if there's any question by a member, please let me know. Edwin, will you provide us with an overview and walk us through each?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, members of the board. First item is item H1. Louisiana Tech University is requesting approval to seek matching funds from the Louisiana Board of Regents for the endowed super graduate student scholarships. These are 60%, 40% matching funds. It's a competitive process for these 7 endowed graduate student scholarships. Item 2 is Nicholls State University's request for approval of the university's revised internal audit charter. Item 3 is Northwestern State University's request for approval to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the city of Natchitoches. This cooperative endeavor agreement is in order for Northwestern to receive 40% of the revenue generated by a sales tax in the Natchitoches Economic Development District C. The purpose of the tax is to provide for the cost of acquiring, constructing, equipping, operating, and maintaining recreational facilities in the city, and for the promotion of recreation and sporting events in the city. Item H4 is Northwestern State University's request for approval of a proposed new flat rate pricing for prep. Northwestern State University is requesting a flat rate pricing for enrollment in the post-baccalaureate alternate certification program for elementary to high school. The proposed charge is $5,040 in tuition and fees for 18 graduate credit hours. That's equal to $280 per credit. These credits will be able to be used towards a master's degree. Item H5 is the University of New Orleans request for a cooperative endeavor agreement with Abatella Sciences Incorporated. This is similar to the startup company that we approved last year for University of New Orleans to give them space to begin to develop their startup program. The last one was extremely successful, and they're looking forward to the same success in this one. Item H6 is the University of New Orleans request to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Entergy New Orleans to lease rooftop space for a solar power array. This is a lease that they will have in conjunction with the city of New Orleans that will provide students the opportunity to learn about the power generation and to provide a lease for the institution. They're looking at using the University Center and the Rec Center's rooftops in order to provide this. Item H7 is the University of New Orleans request to amend the lease with the Follett Group. The university will participate in the Follett Access Program. The university will institute a required student course material fee, rental textbook model for students at the university. Each student will pay $25 per credit hour for the semester and will have access to all learning materials for that semester. This is a program that will allow students to have all of their materials at the beginning of the semester, and they do have an option to opt out. Item H8 is the University of Louisiana System's report on internal and external audit activity for the period of August 19th through the 20th.
Within your board packet, I have a list of all the internal audit reports that have been completed by our various auditors since the last board meeting. The report also includes audits that are currently in progress and a timetable and follow-up to ensure that management does take appropriate corrective action from previous reports. At this time, we didn't have any external audit reports for this period, and this is a report only, and no action by the board is necessary.
Bruce, Evan, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Clark?
Question on H4, the Northwestern State University's request for approval. My impression is that the proposed charge is actually a decrease
Correct.
to students.
Correct.
Do we know how much savings it will be roughly for a student to complete the program? 50%. And any accreditation issues related to this change at all? Okay, well, again, I commend the thinking on this. It certainly seems like it's a student-friendly initiative. It certainly complies with what we're trying to do on affordability issues, and I think it's great.
Along the same lines, I had a question. I guess the UNO fee that, is under consideration too would also have a benefit for the students for the course materials. I just don't know how to say, I guess it, John, Dr. Nicola?
Yeah, so it is a benefit. College Board estimates that average student spends $1,240 a year. That's fall, spring, summer on textbooks. This reduces that rate to $300 for a full-time, for a student taking 12 hours. Covers all their materials, and they have an opt-out clause. They can actually opt out once, opt back in, and then opt out again, and at that point, their academic career, they cannot come back into that program. We checked a sample of students. For the majority of students, it will save them money.
Well, thank you. I think that's another benefit for the students, so thank you very much. I do also have one other question with regard to the cooperative endeavor agreement with the city of Natchitoches. I know there's a list of obligations that we're undertaking with regard to this CEA. I didn't see any numbers in there to estimate what we're going to receive in terms of the percentage of the revenue related to that sales tax relative to the obligations that we're undertaking. The question I have is, will the revenue, is the forecasted revenue going to be able to compensate us for the costs that we incur with regard to those obligations?
Yes, right now it appears that the 40% is projected a little over $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially we'll be marketing and improving our facilities and marketing our athletics to continue to draw visitors for economic development today.
So that 100,000 should compensate us for the out-of-pocket costs that we have in terms of the obligation to perform those services.
There's no income, no expense that we're obligated for them.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? May I have a motion and a second for approval of the consent item?
So moved.
Yeah, Ms. Russell moved. Rachel seconded. So any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Item H9 has been withdrawn from the agenda. Mr. Wendt will present the fourth quarter financial reports.
Good morning, Mr. Ketchum. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Romero, members of the board, President Henderson. I'll try and keep my comments as brief as possible because we know that these financial statements are always exciting. Briefly, I'll tell you from the budgeted standpoint, revenues were up $15.8 million for the year compared to last year. This is through the quarter ended June 30th of 2019. State general fund appropriations were up $1 million to $214 million. However, when you look at the state appropriations and you look at the system's obligation toward the unfunded accrued liability, or UAL, for the pension plans and also for the contributions for the post-retirement health care benefits, the OPEB, the system paid $158.3 million, or 73.9% of the state appropriations back to the state for those liabilities. So the benefits there, or that calculation also doesn't include the other mandated costs, your audit costs, your risk management costs, and some of those other expenses that come out of that money before it's available to the universities. And I thought that was important to share with you relative to those additional costs.
Charles, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you could put that in, say those numbers again and put them in a little bit of context.
Okay. Of $214 million in state appropriations that the state is giving to our universities, we are returning to the state $158.3 million for our pension liabilities and our OPEB costs.
If I could ask you an accounting question, I don't want to get too granular. But if the system didn't exist, would those liabilities go away?
Those are going to be liabilities of the state, and they will remain. And what happens is, in all likelihood, if the system went away, what in all likelihood would happen is that the remaining state entities who participate in the retirement plans, those entities' rates for pension payments would go up, because they would have to spread that cost across all of the individual entities in order to continue to fund it.
But the liabilities we carry on our books, but they're actually state level liabilities.
I would consider those the state level liabilities, because it's a state, those are the state's obligations for pensions.
And Charles, it's not only the unfunded accrued liability, it's a current cost as well.
That's exclusive of the current cost.
Oh, it is exclusive?
Yes, sir. The current cost was another approximately $14 million.
Okay.
So the state actually paid $172 million. But if you consider the normal cost, the cost of your active employees and for their work, that would be maybe, that's like paying their Social Security payment if they were participating in Social Security. Okay. And so that's going to be a little different. And the lasers rate, by the way, is for the current fiscal year, the 2020 fiscal year, is 40.7% of the salary. So and I always round numbers, so at 50,000, that's 20,000, at 100,000, that's 40,000, before you pay any health care costs or any other employee benefit.
Thank you.
So. The expenses were $870.8 million, and of course they equaled on the budgeted revenue and expense side, they equaled. There was no surplus or deficit relative to the budget. Personal services expenses increased $23.8 million. There were salary increases during the current year, and those are your associated payroll costs, but also the benefits related to those costs, primarily in your pension numbers. As it relates to revenues, each of the universities' revenues did increase, for the budgeted revenues did increase for the fiscal year from anywhere from 1 to 3.3%. The auxiliary revenues, excluding athletics, increased $9.6 million, and the expenses were $6.8 million. And the fund balance after the transfers, and those transfers represent debt service payments that are paid from your auxiliary funds. That's one of your biggest examples. The fund balance increased $1.4 million. On the athletic side, athletic revenues totaled almost $108 million. The expenses totaled approximately $115 million, and we had 4 universities with operating deficits for the current year. Grambling had $1.1 million, ULL with $4.9, ULM for $1.1 million, and then Southeastern reported a very small $35,000 deficit. They had sufficient fund balance in athletics to cover that deficit. And we also received revenues from outsourced contracted auxiliary services totaling $48 million, and the associated expenses were $40 million. And then the fund balances for our restricted funds totaled $64 million, a decrease of $1.9 million, which shows that they're using some of those restricted funds, for example, in your building use fees. Some of those funds are being used for projects at the individual campuses, and they're exceeding the revenues that they're receiving from some of those. That's just one of the examples. So that's a broad overview of what we have on the financials for the current year.
Charles, thank you. Item H10 is a report only and does not require a vote. Is there any other business to come before the committee? If not, Mr. Romero, that's all of the items for finance. Next items are for the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Kitchen. Mr. Robinson at this time will present items that are to be heard by the Personnel Committee.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Personnel Committee. The Personnel Committee has 2 items on the consent agenda. Edwin, would you give us an overview, please?
Yes, sir. Item 1 is McNeese State University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Wade Roos as the Dean of the College of Business effective September 17, 2019. And item I2 is Nicholls State University's request for approval to appoint Ms. Jean Donegan as the interim Dean of the College of Liberal Arts effective July 1st, 2019.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? If no further clarifications are required, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Without objection, that is approved. I invite the president to present any individuals present this afternoon, or this morning, excuse me.
This is a great honor. Miss Jean Donegan has been knowing me since high school, so this is really special. But she quickly caught the attention of our provost, Dr. Sue Westbrook. Ms. Donegan was chair of the art department for a number of years, started Artworks, which is our most impressive fundraiser. It's a model of how a department chair does fundraising. She's the new dean of the founding dean of our College of Liberal Arts. We split a larger college, and she has hit the ground running to universal acclaim from her faculty, and she comes from the faculty. That is not always easy, as we know. And she's done a tremendous job in terms of personnel and facilities. And I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm very honored to have been chosen as the interim dean of liberal arts, and I am going to function at the very best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's everyone today? My name is Mitch Adrian, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs over at McNeese. We had to go back to the pool to find a good dean for the College of Business, a new dean, and we found Dr. Wade Roos. He's originally from Louisiana, has a background that's taken him all over the country, including work with the Federal Reserve, comes to us with a PhD in economics. At McNeese, he's already starting to change everything. His relationship with the other deans is really good. I've got a great team in place right now. When they have problems, they don't call me anymore, they talk to each other. And so, things are changing quick. So I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Wade Roos.
Mr. Chairman and chairman-persons and the board, I'm humbled and honored to be here today. I'm back home. It's been a long journey. I've been scratching to get back and be a part of higher education in Louisiana. I am joining an enormous team. Our president and provost are super supportive. I'm excited about the vision and the mission of changing lives, and to sort of address that skills gap that we talk about over and over. And in our part in the College of Business, we're going to do that. We want to have graduates that come out, quote unquote, production ready, and also have the characteristic of adaptability so that we can get them a job immediately upon a graduation, and that they can continue to stay vibrant in an ever changing economy. And we're going to do that by collecting some data on placement rates, on starting salaries, and on fundraisings. Because when I think about having a dynamic curriculum, market-driven process, it needs to be a process that can be tweaked, that we can continue to make sure our graduates have the skills to close the skill set, to close the skill gap, but the adaptability to continue to thrive over time. So when I think about that process and I think about those objectives, I see a sort of circular flow of positive effects that ultimately change our students' lives, and that's our mission, and that's what we're going to do. I'm humbled to be home. Awesome.
Welcome back. On behalf of the board, I extend our congratulations to the both of you and wish you the best in your new roles at your particular universities. Is there any other business to come before this committee? If If not, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the business of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Dr. Henderson, if you would present your report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board members were emailed copies of the personnel actions for review. The staff has reviewed these personnel actions and recommends approval. Mr. Chair, we would need a motion and a second.
So approval of the personnel actions, could I have a motion by Mr. Salter, second by Ms. Pierre. Any questions or comments from the board, from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Compete Louisiana is progressing at a very rapid rate, and I see Katie Doris is in the back. Katie, stand up. I know you've met Katie, but she's you don't see her sitting down often, so I made her stand. There's a printed update in your folder, but we've had a very enthusiastic response, so much so that we've added 2 more coaches to the program. We now have 5 dedicated coaches, and several of our staff, including vice presidents, continue to coach students as well. We'll hope to share some innovations at the next meeting that will assist in the program's scalability and reach, and ask for your approval to make some modifications to the course of business. This is one of the great consequences, if you will, of this kind of program, is we become intimately familiar with the process. And so many aspects of the process may not add requisite value. And as we continue to evaluate those in conjunction with our campuses and with our presidents and their teams, we're gonna make coming back to college much easier. So we'll continue to work in that regard. Some campus visits. Earlier this month, we traveled more than 1,800 miles in 6 days to meet with university faculty and staff. I want to thank Cammie Geisman and Caitlin Wilkerson and Jesse Gabor for enduring that travel schedule. But we met with faculty and staff at each institution, and I want to thank the 9 presidents. It's always an imposition when during the school year we have this kind of presentation, but we thought it was important to convey our message. But they tolerated the imposition and actually gave us some nice hospitality, so thank those 9 presidents. We really enjoyed our time on each campus. We were energized. We were encouraged throughout the tour. The message was simple. Our faculty is our most precious asset that we have to serve students, and we must make a case for strategic reinvestment in their work. I was heartened yesterday when the Board of Regents passed their budget request for next year that includes significant reinvestment in faculty. We hope to work with them to enhance that number, because if we're going to be competitive, if we're going to fulfill our mission, it requires us having world-class faculty. We have to remunerate them appropriately. And it goes with staff as well. I hope all of you will support the system as we advocate in the coming months. And speaking of advocacy, November 2nd begins the early voting period for the election that is November 16th. I encourage all of you to vote, and all of you to vote. Since we're in New Orleans, I could say vote early and often, but I won't. Dr. Niccolo, the finest city in the world, I think you call it. That's fantastic.
Are you referring something?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I said I wouldn't mention that. Inclusive excellence. Yesterday, we hosted, it was one of the, I will tell you, and this is not hyperbole, it was one of the most fulfilling days I've had as a professional. We gathered leaders from all 9 of our institutions to discuss equity, diversity, and inclusion. This work is driven by this board's commitment to diversity and supported by the system's task force on inclusion in the workplace. That task force has worked tirelessly to identify ways we can improve our campuses as places to work and places to learn. I want to thank Dr. Khan for taking a leadership role, not only in the task force, but taking an idea and crafting into something that's actionable. The agenda was fantastic, and thank you for that, Dr. Khan. I also want to thank Deb Elam, who is our partner here in New Orleans, who did a phenomenal job of helping facilitate the conference. In addition, the keynote address by Dr. Maurice Stinnett. He's a nationally recognized leader in diversity matters. He also works with the Brooklyn Nets, and he was so proud that Kyrie Irving was coming back, but he had no idea that Kyrie Irving would score 50 points in his debut with Brooklyn Nets last night. So we felt like we contributed something to that. We had 9 working sessions where campus leaders identified problems and proposed solutions to implement. Yesterday's efforts will have a lasting impact on the system's faculty, staff, and students. They were a good starting point for this work, and I'm very proud of the participants and appreciate the work of the Task Force on Inclusion in the Workplace. For our future conference, it's coming up in January 30th and 31st. It will take place on the campus of ULM. You'll be provided additional information in the next meeting, but I hope you'll save the date and make every effort to attend. It's January 30th and 31st in Monroe, and we thank Dr. Bruno for elevating the standard. He says he will exceed what happened at ULL and at Southeastern, and we look forward to holding him to that. We have an item that will require your approval, and I would like to call Dr. Clune back to the table. Nicholls State University has a request to bestow the title of President Emeritus of the university upon Dr. Stephen Hulbert. Dr. Clune, would you please come forward and introduce this request from Nicholls State?
Thank you. If you could indulge me for a minute, since we have been we spent yesterday on diversity and inclusion. We have a new chief diversity officer on our campus, a man of great integrity, compassion, and great judgment. We all know you can't fix judgment. And he is a graduate of MLI, and he's in the audience. Mr. Stephen Kenny. Yep, please. Well, let me just say, he's one of the first individuals I called when I came to Nicholls State University. He was very caring and concerned and compassionate. I've sat with him in many difficult situations, and he always maintained the integrity of everyone in the room, and I've been so impressed by him. And now he's our Chief Diversity Officer.
First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to the board, and thank you for Dr. Clune for the honor of serving as the Diversity and Inclusion Officer at Nicholls State University. My career has been one where I was in private industry and now I'm in private industry and now in public sector and higher education. And it's taken me all around the world, literally. But as a product of New Orleans public school systems, as a product of the state of Louisiana, from my primary education up into high school, it's proud to give back the service that I've, the foundation that was laid here. I'm proud to give back to the state of Louisiana in the capacity of the Diversity and Inclusion Officer at Nicholls State University. So I look forward to working with each of you. I look forward to working with everyone on all the different campuses, because we work more effectively when we work together as 9 institutions collaborating as one, as opposed to 9 separate institutions. So thank you all.
Thank you. Dr. Stephen Hulbert was at Nicholls State University from 2003 to 2013, which meant he went through Katrina, Rita, Gustav, and the Deepwater Horizon spill. I guess it was just his luck, and a lot of budget cuts. During Katrina, we had 12,500 evacuees on our campus. To put that in context, Nicholls only has 6,500 students, and Thibodeau only has 15,000 residents, and we had 12,500 evacuees on the campus, and the job he did was absolutely stellar. He's also responsible for the beautification of our campus. Our campus is very beautiful, as you know. A lot of that has to do with the Hulbert era, when he planted a lot of the shrubbery, built the rec center, built new student housing, and also started the Culinary Institute that opened after he left. And that's one of the things that I think defines Dr. Hulbert. He started a lot of things, such as partnerships with Fletcher and Nunez Community College, that he knew he would never see to fruition as president, but he established his legacy. And for that, there's been a unanimous vote among the senior faculty members to propose him for President Emeritus of Nicholls State University.
Dr. Clune, thank you very much. Dr. Kahn is always takes these requests and does a deep dive evaluation. She has conveyed her approval of the request, and I concur with that very much. Mr. Chair, we would need a motion and a second to approve this item.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Dr. Clune, if I could have a motion and a second at this time. Moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Dr. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, speaking of former presidents at Nicholls State, I want to offer congratulations to Dr. Bruce Murphy, who was announced as the new president at Centenary University in Hackettstown, New Jersey. We offer him our best wishes. I know that the experiences from Nicholls State will prepare him well for that journey, and we wish him the best. And speaking of former presidents, President Emeritus of University of Louisiana Monroe, Dwight Vines, is suffering from some serious health concerns, and we ask that the board keep your thoughts and prayers with Dr. Vines and his family, and certainly with Dr. Bruno and the entire ULM family at this time. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Mr. Chairman, I say one thing. I just want to thank Jim and his staff. Again, I know it's under the president report, and you know, just when I think our team is at its best, they'll keep adding on new talent. And what Katie has done with Louisiana Compete, it's been awesome. I mean, our whole staff, she personally helped me on some projects with getting the Compete information, and it's really helped. And I just want to commend you and the staff that every time we think y'all are at your best, y'all keep adding on more talent. And I just want to personally thank you guys for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson, and Mr. Perkins, for your comments. I think we all echo that belief, and we certainly are very thankful to have all of you as part of our team in delivering services to the universities and students that we're all responsible for serving. I want to take an opportunity to remind each of you of your mandatory ethics and sexual harassment training requirements that need to be completed by year end. If you have any questions or need any help completing this, please contact Bruce Genet. He can assist you in accessing any processes to get you through that.
But not completing the training.
He will not be able to complete it. It's important we do it ourselves, but he will help you to do so. It's time for me to appoint a nominating committee that will recommend a slate of officers for the 2020 calendar year. At this time, I'm honored to appoint Al Perkins as chairman. Also serving with Al will be Rachel Laudiger, Joe Salter, Sean Murphy, and Liz Pierre. I want to thank all of you for your time and effort in accepting this responsibility. The committee is going to meet either before or in conjunction with the December board meeting. Next, we have two items that require the board to enter into an executive session. The first is a litigation issue. Northwestern State's request for approval to authorize the university president to take necessary actions to legally remedy a dispute with Caddo Signs. And the next is an evaluation of campus president Dr. Les Geis at Louisiana Tech. Board policy requires that the university president be reviewed on a regular basis. For this annual review cycle, an in-depth evaluation for 3 campus presidents occurred with the process involving the self-assessment by each president, the gathering and input from campus personnel via survey, and meetings that Dr. Henderson personally conducted on campus with individuals that are part of the campus as well as the community. To discuss both of these items, potential litigation as well as the personnel review, we'll meet in executive session. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System may meet in executive session to discuss potential litigation and personnel matters under the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 4217. While in executive session, the board may not make any motions or take any votes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Egan, Dr. Egan, second by Ms. Laudiger. And this time, Carol, if you could do a roll call vote.
Mr. James Carter, Dr. Jimmy Clark,
Yes.
Dr. John Condos,
Yes.
Mr. Edward Crawford, Ms. Lola Donahoe,
Yes.
Dr. Pamela Egan.
Yes.
Mr. Tom Kitchen.
Yes.
Ms. Rachel Laudiger.
Yes.
Ms. Mimi Methvin.
Yes.
Mr. Sean Murphy.
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins.
Yes.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Yes.
Ms. Christina Russell.
Yes.
And Mr. Joe Salter.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Carol. At this time, the board will adjourn to executive session.
Have fun with your drive, buddy. Congratulations. Good luck. some, I don't know. No, it's down there. They're gonna have the evaluation.
Good girl. Did you come there yesterday?
Yeah, I heard about it. It's getting cool and be long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better. Safe travels, man. Just out when the temperature drops, my sinuses close up. It changes my voice. I hate it. When the temperature drops, it makes my sinus, my house.
I wondered about that.
It's like instant too. Like I don't even have to look at the weather report. I can feel it
Tell,
at night. Yeah.
I take multiple allergy medicines every day.
And you know the thing about it, when I was younger, all my allergies were more like sneeze. As I've gotten older, it's different. It's in the throat. It's different. I take She does me too.
nothing, I'm just telling you, I'll do that, okay? December 5th, I think. That's right, that's right, I remember that. I think I can remember. I just don't have it in front of me, so before we talk about stuff at work, I know people must think, Carrie, you should know. I don't, but I have things on pieces of paper, you just have to look at. December 5th. Yeah, because that's the week, I think, before finals for me. But I also, I'll be taking to one that I should be there. Because it just dawned on me, a lot of my classes are ending before finals week this year. So.
Liz, which way are you going back? I'm actually staying. Oh, yeah, my husband's coming down
Oh,
tomorrow
no, yeah.
to meet me.
Yeah, I need to keep it. Thank you.
You need these? We're
Yeah.
doing the Phillips game tomorrow night.
I'll give them back to
LSU game on Saturday, and then Saints on Sunday.
Is the Northwestern have so busy?
Busy.
Right,
Well, that's,
right.
but it's fun busy. It is. It is. Especially when we both like sports, so. Yeah, that's really fun. So I'll just stay over and wait for him tomorrow.
I'll have to look at it.
So you'll be on the road as soon as we finish, I guess. Yeah.
So, when I do come to December, when I got here, I need to come down and make a big old loop.
Yeah.
Stay on Lakeshore until I hit Pine Street. Then Pine hopeful will scare me. Second, that's the only way you can go.
I don't know. You have like the GPS on your phone? You want? Yeah. We'll put your.
How you gonna do?
I'm gonna go over to that lady, go to Elysian
Oh,
Field.
no, I totally am. If anybody's you know, we didn't have things on it first.
Tennessee, when we leave here, and he's loading up a U-Haul with furniture.
It won't let you
Can't
turn
turn
left.
left.
So,
We didn't, we could barely elect it. And then a lot of them didn't show up. So we were, sometimes if I'm not
The reason said turn right.
slide it in the next meeting, I don't really even see it.
But you do go around.
I know that's terrible. Go back.
Yeah, come back this way.
There's overbearing
Back down, like,
Rain's coming in, look at that lake whipping up.
it's whipping up for sure.
Like a I-10.
You going home?
Yeah.
With the
Oh, the weather gets too bad.
Coming off
What,
that
we had renovation?
Well, tailgating's gonna start on Friday, Saturday.
Tonight,
Rain continuing through the morning, 70% chance.
right?
So if I'm
And
arrested
then,
for killing a fire marshal,
continuing in the
y'all
afternoon.
come to mind to
Saturday morning too.
When's it start?
I recommend
I
you a
gotta
good
sit there.
lawyer.
I
Got a lawyer too close to
I got four. Oh, wait, that's right. So the math app is, yeah, I think it's.
Oh, she played Saturday,
But it, you know, it always rains during that time.
Oh, she played Saturday, don't she?
3 points. Yes, sir. It's gonna rain all day.
Evening, no, you good, evening or night?
I usually know.
It might be raining on it when they play.
So not
The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System met in executive session to discuss potential litigation and personnel matters. While in executive session, no motions were made nor votes taken. Is there a motion to reconvene in open session?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Ms. Donahoe. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Regarding the Northwestern item, may we have a motion for a resolution stating that the Board of Supervisors of the University of Louisiana System hereby approves and authorizes the university president on behalf of the board to proceed with all necessary actions to legally resolve the dispute with Caddo Signs, including but not limited to filing suit. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved, second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Few items, I'll be brief. Sandra will be contacting you soon for your availability to attend fall commencements. I encourage you to attend as many commencement exercises as your schedule allows. I think Al made a very strong commitment and set a tone for us to have a board member present at every graduation. I think it's one of the most significant duties that we hold. And I hope that we can continue that. I know it takes a lot of commitment, but it is also the most rewarding experience I think I've had as a board member, and watching those students come across the stage to receive their recognition for achievement in their degrees. We have system regalia at the office if anybody needs. Robes are available on a first-come, first-served basis, so contact the office to RSVP them. Our next meeting will be returning to Baton Rouge at the Claiborne Building, and it's scheduled for Thursday, December the 5th. We'll have a little holiday and enjoy the Thanksgiving time, and in the interim, we have a few orders of business that we worked with per our conversations. Again, we want to thank Dr. Nicolo. It was a very nice reception last night and tour, as well as the opening up the campus for meetings over the past 2 days. We appreciate the hospitality of the Eno family. Is there any other business to come before? One item, Dr. Henderson would like to.
Just real quickly, to our board, you know, everybody is gone because executive session. What you see left is UL Systems staff. And I just wanted to thank them for this entire week. The work is done in preparation that Carol and they all do in preparation for board meetings is immense. But to have it off-site in conjunction with an event like we had yesterday, the Diversity Inclusion Summit, is an immense amount of work, and they deliver at a high level. So I just wanted to thank all of them. And I also want to thank the UNO staff that's here in the room. You guys did an absolutely fabulous job with this. I know it's an imposition, and it's not your normal course of business, but it was just, everything was extraordinary. And I particularly want to point out a gentleman that's in the room with us, Chef Walden, retired U.S. Marine, worked in the office of the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and thank you for your help these last 2 days, and what an honor it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Is there any other business to come before the board at this time? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Moved in second, we stand adjourned. Hope everybody has a safe and wonderful holiday season.